Hey, how you doing? We're back again, live on Facebook. I'm Jonas,
I'm Jackie.
and we're going to talk today about how do you know if you have too much belly fat. So, just a brief recap. In the first two videos, we covered who gets it, who gets extra fat in their midsection, and who does.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't might be a better question,
Yeah.
you know. Especially, it seems, especially those who are in a bad hormonal situation, especially those of us who are getting older. We seem to have a higher propensity for storing fat in our midsection, especially visceral fat. The next one that we did, yesterday's video, was what are the dangers of storing fat in our midsection, of having extra fat there too much. And as we saw yesterday, there's a ton of dangers. There's diabetes, correlation with heart disease, stroke, even Alzheimer's. Okay, the visceral fat acts as its own gland, almost as a gland, a quasi-gland in the endocrine system, emitting a cascade of hormones that put you in a bad state, put you in a state to make more fat and more and more and more. And we'll talk some more about that tomorrow. But today's topic is, how do you know? How do you know if you have too much belly fat going on? How do you know? I mean, what do you
Well,
think?
sometimes you kind of just know from life signs. So when I had reached 180 pounds, I no longer had energy to do the things with my kids that I wanted to do. Even as a teacher, I mean, at this point, I was a pre-K teacher, you know, and you have to sit on the floor and get up, and you want to be able to do things with your littles. And it was getting harder and harder to do all those things as my weight was getting heavier and heavier.
And so going to the doctor was a big slap in the face.
Going to the doctor was a big slap in the face. So, I mean, obviously, if you've gone to the doctor and he has said you're pre-diabetic, or you have high cholesterol, or, you know, you have high blood pressure, you probably have this problem. It's probably what, I mean, if you were very thin and you have these, obviously that's hereditary. But if you're not, then it's probably what part of the problem is.
Yeah, carrying too much fat in the midsection is pretty much an epidemic here, especially in the United States. Really, any industrialized Western country where, you know, cheap, delicious food is so plentiful and available, right? And our lifestyles are becoming more and more sedentary.
How did you know?
Well, for me, it was lifestyle factors as well. I remember my first grandson was going to be born. My stepdaughter Lucy was pregnant with my first grandson. We knew it was going to be a little boy, and I was so excited. You know, I envisioned all these, you know, these visions in my head. I've never had a little child. Okay, I have no biological children of my own. I have stepchildren, and they've come into my life as teenagers. So that's been awesome. But I've never had a little kid of my own. And even though it wasn't going to be my child, I was so excited to have a little grandchild I could just run and play with, right? Be an active part of his life. And I vividly remember, while she was pregnant, I was sitting on the couch one morning, putting my shoes on, and reaching over to tie my shoes, I just about stroked out. I mean, my face turned all kinds of red. Veins were bulging in my bald head. And I really felt like I was going to have a heart attack. And that's when reality slapped me in the face. It was like, Jonas, where you want to be, where you're picturing yourself, the place you want to be, throwing the football with your grandson, playing on the water slide, climbing around on the jungle gym with him. That is such a fantasy. You can't even tie your shoes, man, without just about falling out. And that's when I knew. That's when I really saw the stark difference between where I was and where I so wanted to be. And I had to make a change. I had to reach out. I had to change, you know. Well, okay, those are some kind of subjective ways that you can tell if you're carrying too much fat, especially in your midsection. But there are also some objective measures, right? The absolute gold standard of objective measure in terms of body fat muscle mass, bone density is a DEXA scan. DEXA. A DEXA scan is like an X-ray machine on steroids. Okay, it's like an MRI. It images your body fat, your muscle mass, your bone density, and it calculates how much you are actually carrying. And you can actually find Groupons that will sell the coupons for DEXA scans for about $70, $75. And we like to do that about once a year or so.
About the time of your yearly physical. It's a good thing to bring into your doctor's office.
Sure enough, yeah, the number one correlate, the number one measure of health, honestly, that correlates with health and not in a disease state is body fat percentage. We'll talk more about that though. But anyway, not everybody has access to a DEXA scan. It's kind of pricey, and sometimes you have to make a drive. And because of COVID right now, the one that the place that does it for us is closed. But so we'd like to talk about some of the things that you can do at home that can provide you an objective estimate, anyway, of if you have too much body fat, if this applies to you at all.
So another way is with handy dandy skin fold calipers. Turn this one. So obviously not everyone has skin fold calipers. These fun things pinch the fat on your arm. Jonas didn't really have any fat to pinch.
I got lots of
And then so basically, if you don't own one of these, you will have to go see a trainer or go to a gym where they have these. They will do a pinch on your upper arm. They will do a pinch at your waist. They will do a pinch at your hips. And they can kind of determine with that an estimate of your body fat percentage. However, again, you have to go somewhere else. You might have to pay someone. Not everyone has these like nerdy Jonas. What you can do is, I know. What you can do is a simple measurement called the waist to hip ratio. Okay, you guys know the math teacher in me is loving this right here. Look, I even had to put it on paper. So the waist to hip ratio. The waist to hip ratio is the circumference, your waist circumference over your hip circumference. So, an easy way to do this. Now, some of you moms might sew and have a cloth tape measure. If you do not, all you need is a piece of string and just a regular old tape measure. What you will do is measure your waist at the smallest part of your waist. It's usually right here around your belly button. So grab your string, take a waist measurement. Measure it on your tape measure, write it down. Your next measurement is your hip measurement. You want to do that at the widest part of your hips. That's usually right over here where your hip bones is. Bones are. So grab your string, go around that widest part of your hip, pinch your string, measure that, plug it into your calculator, and do the division on your calculator.
And so what are the standards of judgment?
Well,
how do you know?
There is a chart that we will be posting in our comments after this. We will post this chart so you can see what the ratio is that you need. So I will show it to you here, but we will post it for you. So if you are a woman, you want that percentage to be 80%. You want it to be 0.8 or lower to be in the absolute healthy, you have no issues range. As you increase, then of course your risks increase. As a man, you want it to be 0.95 or lower. So of course, you know, for a man that's less because y'all are built like straight. Ladies are not.
Curvy and hourglass.
You get to be curvy. So we will post those ratios in the comments below, but that's an easy way for you to do that at home to know whether or not you are already past the point where it's dangerous.
Yeah. So to recap again, the first two videos, who gets it? Who gets the stubborn body fat? The second one, what are the dangers associated with it? Yesterday, or today's, was how do you know? So how do you know if you fall in that camp? So what we're doing right now, we're identifying the problem, and then we are finding out if it applies to us. What are the dangers of the problem? Do we fall into that camp? If that's you, then please do leave a comment.
A comment.
Because I want you to know you are not alone. If there's one thing that I have, my eyes have been awakened to, especially during this week of videos, is how very many of us are struggling with this all together. And I want you to know that there is hope. Okay, there are positive steps we can take. We're living proof. Okay, and others too. We're going to share their stories as well. But I encourage you, I really want you to tune in tomorrow, because that's when we're going into the why. Okay, we've done who, what, how. Tomorrow we do why. Why is belly fat so hard? Why is it such a struggle to lose belly fat, particularly belly fat? I mean, fat anywhere is difficult to deal with, but those stubborn regions in our midsection, and the ones that are doing us the most harm health-wise and holding us back from living the type of life we want to live, playing with our grandkids,
A lot of science tomorrow.
Sure enough. But thank you so much once again for joining us. Please do tune in tomorrow. We are really digging this. Thank you so much for all the support. We love y'all, and we'll see you tomorrow. Same time.
Same kitchen.
Bye, y'all. Let's see if I can exit this Facebook Live a little bit more gracefully.